Hello, my name is Pavel Sladký, and I'm pleased to welcome you at the Q&A for the film Landrauschen. And I'm pleased to welcome here Lisa Miller, the director. Hello, welcome.
Hello, thank you for inviting us.
First of all, before we start to debate the film, could you tell Czech viewers who are maybe not that familiar with the term, what is Heimatfilm and how do you relate to it?
So Heimatfilm is a short, very popular, especially in the south of Germany, especially in Bavaria. It developed after, I think already before the Second World War, but especially after the war, when the whole country was like, torn down and like destroyed cities and like people were depressed. And so in the 50s, these films came up where there was just like happy Bavarians in like dirndls and lederhosen and the same kind of traditional clothes you have in Czech Republic, and just in the mountains and like, a bit of love story and just like untouched nature and the forest and the good people in the countryside and just this like intact world in a contrast to what has happened before. So it was kind of an escapism. I think the genre is started very much as that, just a kind of escapism into some romantic landscapes. And and it developed over the course of the decades. There was then also in the 60s, in the 70s with like, the Fassbinder and all these filmmakers, it became a bit more like socially criticizing more social circumstances, for example, and then it became later on in the 90s and 80s more maybe like family stories, and it was also like when you had television series, you had this kind of influences of like an intact world in the countryside. It's mostly connected to stories that take place in the countryside. But like, for example, Fassbinder was also called an urban Heimat, like, connected with the term urban Heimatfilm. And and then there was a very changing point in 2006, I think it was. There was a film about a young boy, and it was very modern. So it was then it took a turn into, becoming modern and like also having more ambivalent characters, just like modern day characters. And so I was really interested in the genre, also the old films, like they're you can't really watch them or not from the beginning to the end, like I don't know, but just this concept. And so the film I did is really like a comment on that, or I really wanted to use like the stereotypes they use as well and all this stuff. And also the word Heimat, I don't know if it exists in any other language. I can't really describe it. I think it's kind of a place where you belong, maybe.
I would suggest the Czech word vlast for it, meaning basically the same. And I'm pretty convinced that many languages do have some word for Heimat, at least similar meaning.
But then it's more like, patria or like a homeland, but I think this is kind of a feeling, actually. Like it's not only a place, it's kind of a feeling. And I don't know one in English, for example. But
anyway, formally, do you copy or use or parody some elements of Heimat films?
Yeah, for example, like the characters, you have very traditional characters very often, like the priest or the forester. There's lots of foresters. And also my father is a forester, so maybe this is why I was watching the films as well. And there's a love story, and you have parents and like, these kind of, but especially politician. We have like a conservative rural politician, and the police also often it's often against the rural people. It's very difficult for me, the people from the villages against authorities, for example. So back in the day, it would have been the king. Well, there was no kings anymore, but like people who have authority over, like, the rich hunter who has authority over the people who are like going out and shooting deer, illegally, and these sort of things. So yeah.
Landrauschen is your debut film. Is it very personal? Like, not only in the way that it's set in your own village where you were born and raised. Is there more personal in it?
Yes, it's very autobiographical. For once, especially like the way you grow up in a village is very particular, and I think I want to talk about that. Because many things just spring from pure boredom because there's nothing, and then but I think for me it was also a loveful point of view. Like I was dealing with that, but in a kind of, I think I reconciliated with it, and now I see it much like back in the day when you're 16 and you're like, you're in a village, you just want to leave. And that's what I did. I left. But now I'm like, oh, it was great. Like the freedom you have. And, it's just like a nice way to grow up, really. But I did leave. So I went like to big cities. And this is where the film then takes place. When I came back, like for real, in my real life, I came back from London, which is a very big city, obviously, back to my village because for once I was very broke, obviously, because it's a very expensive city. And then also I didn't know what to do with my life. Like I didn't have the power to move forward. So what I did, I moved backward and moved in with my parents for half a year or something before I then moved away again. But and this is a very stupid thing to do, really, because it's full of conflicts and like, yeah. So I came back there and it just felt like the biggest loser on the planet. And this is a bit what happens to Toni. Like she goes back and has this identity crisis and has to find her place in her old world. And also the idea that you go back and things are like they have been before, which is also a very romanticizing idea about villages, for example, but the world is spinning and so does the village, so so do these little places as well. So, and then also it's not autobiographical, but pretty much the story of Rosa. It's very much Nadine Sauter's story. So it's kind of a mix of my life, other people's life.
It even seemed to me that the film starts with a main focus on Toni, and then it shifts, and then Rosa became the main character, basically, in the film.
Yeah, this was on purpose because I wanted her to emancipate herself, also on a narrative level, to emancipate herself from this very dominant character, Toni. And also, yeah, I didn't want to make a film about it's in the end, it doesn't become a relationship, but it's like, the girl who has studied, who was in the city and then comes back and then meets these people from the village, especially Rosa. And Rosa is this like a lesbian woman who stayed in the village. And I didn't want to be just like, that she's kind of how do you say, like, that she provides place for the story of Toni, but that she gets her own story and that she's not, because often these, like, for example, queer characters are just there to facilitate a story for the other characters, and I didn't want this to happen. And yeah.
Did you consider, when writing the film, let's say, this combination of Heimat film motifs and the queer motif as controversial?
I think I didn't write it because it is controversial. I wrote it because it is the reality we live in these days. But of course, I knew that some people will have problems with it. and also because it doesn't only touch queerness, it also touches critique with the church, for example. And so obviously there's like tensions already there. But and also because Bavaria is very conservative as well. But my idea really was to bring those two worlds together, to not only make a queer movie that then is only played at queer festivals, but also stay in this very popular genre of the Heimatfilm that many people watch, and they know, oh, it's this genre, it's in my dialect, I go and watch it, and then get confronted with another reality as well. And my experience was there was problems definitely, but many people just accepted naturally that this is the story, and they went with the characters, and there wasn't a problem. And we had problems with the church though. So
You mean like after the premiere of the film? Because the film opened in German cinemas in July, if I'm
yeah.
right. So there was some like serious trouble with the meanings of the film with the church or local authorities?
No, not the local authority, like because we work with many local people. So for example, with the church, the local church, with the bands, with the city council, like lots of actors were involved, and everybody was totally fine with it because we've been also very transparent what the film is about. And I also told the women from it's mostly women who organize the church in this village. I went there and I told them, this is the story. We're criticizing also what the church does on an institutional level with their queer employees. And it's also a queer love story. And everybody was totally fine with it because often it's like that the people are actually much further than their representatives. And so that wasn't a problem. But then after the film was released, my mom told me, because she's involved with the church, that some, I don't know, some higher priest from like, because it's like very hierarchical, some like higher instance called our priest to ask what the fuck was going on. Like why, who left them into the church like that. And he was just like, I wasn't there yet, I don't know. But so it never came through to me, but I was like, yeah, of course they're not ready for criticism. So, and then you have always people who don't like it, obviously, because they think you make fun of them. But the majority identified with the film because, yeah, they were happy that the life there was portrayed.
I think policemen also might have a little bit of a trouble with the image of police in your film.
Yeah, that's true. Some people were annoyed about how we portrayed the police, but it's the same thing. It's like, I think comedy and humor always, and especially also in the Heimatfilm genre, when it was more like when it was more turning into towards comedy, and also like just in comedy general is used to as to fight authorities. So you don't have any other means, but you can use that and destroy them on a humoric level.
But you were not considering doing some fictional village for the film, not using Bubenhausen, but some fictional city or fictional village and fictional names, not use the Neu-Ulm region, not use the very specific names?
No, I actually wanted to call it by the name, like because there's so many films made about like 20-somethings who live in Berlin, for example. So like loads of them, like it always takes place in Berlin, for example, as the capital and the coolest city. And I really wanted to give weight to like, the small places and give them names and say they exist and make them more important than they are normally seen.
I suppose there are many moments and many dialogues that were simply overheard somewhere. I could name one. There is Rosa sitting with some guy, and the guy is telling her, well, women, it's always some troubles. I could tell you about it, discussing this in this tone with a lesbian girl. That might be a moment that was simply seen or overheard somewhere, right?
Yeah, many moments, and there are many of. It's lots of things that, especially Nadine, the actress who plays Rosa, had to go through, and things she heard and things she got told, and not only in that village, obviously. I mean, it's not a problem of that village. It's like, actually, this village already is very open because of Nadine and her girlfriend. You know, they know it now, it's fine. But things she grew up with, and yeah, that's lots of stuff. And also the characters, for example, the father, he's my uncle, and it's a lot of the things he says are inspired by him directly. And I also just told him what has to happen in the scene. I wrote it down for myself and told him the clues, and I knew, you know, these old men always have their sentences. They practice them all their life in the pub, and you know, discussing. And you just would come. You know, it's like, yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit more about working with your actors, or actors, non-actors, or non-professional actors? Because we can simply hear this very strong accent from Schwaben.
Yeah.
We can recognize it as Czech viewers, I think, also very simply. But there are more layers of working with non-professionals. How did you do it?
So I think the most important thing is you have to work, I think always as a director, you have to work individually with your character or your actor. But of course, with non-professional actors, there's more different things that can happen, or more preconditions, because some of them were used to theater. They played theater all their life. So what we had to do is, so they knew how to move. They were, in this sense, very professional. We just had to train the fact that they are not playing for an audience, you know, like this very overdone way of speaking, like this very exaggerated way of speaking, and to come down to a level of naturalness. And I use lots of improvisation to do this in rehearsals, to just, you know, chat along, talk about this now, talk about that, do this, whatever. And I think improvisation helps a lot. And then when we were shooting, like, everybody was different. Like my uncle, he was really annoyed when we had to repeat shots. Like he was always, this was fine. Why do we have to repeat it? Uncle, it's because, and you have to, you know, so these things happen, or yeah, things that are normal actors used to, you know, people who don't know the profession just have to get used to it, and you have to lead them the way. Or like my uncle, just force them to do it again. It's like
The film originally opened in Perspektive Deutsches Kino in this sidebar of Berlinale, if I'm right, and then it was awarded by several prizes. Max
yeah, it was the other
Prize.
way around. Like there's a very renowned festival in Germany which is called Max Prize for young German, not only German, also Austrian and Swiss, and well, German speaking countries, for like debut film for first, second, and third films. And yeah, we went there, and we were already so excited that they took us, because we didn't have any money. You know, when we were shooting the film, we didn't have any money. It was all crowdfunding. We didn't expect anything. Like you wish, but you go there and you're really intimidated by all these movies that are made from people who have, you know, who did a good job as well. And then all of a sudden we got like 3 prizes at this festival. And when you win this festival, you move on to Berlinale. So it's like this way. And then we toured the world a little bit with it. It's also with the Goethe-Institut in Mexico, for example. And it was really nice. We went to Tbilisi. I went with my uncle, actually, because he was working there as a construction worker before, and he wanted to meet his old buddies, so they also came to see the film. So it was a nice experience, very familiar, very personal.
So the circle was complete at that moment in Tbilisi.
Yes, for my uncle, definitely.
What was the budget of the film, by the way? You mentioned the crowdfunding. So, general, what was the budget of Landrauschen?
So we did the crowdfunding campaign and we got like 11,000 euros from that campaign. And additionally, we got like sponsors, local sponsors. So in the end, for the shooting only, we had 10,000 euros. So it was a bit crazy. Everybody obviously was working mostly for free, and like we used the things that were there and like, didn't spend a lot of money, mostly on food and beer. And and we did parties also to gain money and like just all these things. And then in the end, with the prize money we won, I think we spent with post-production, which was the most expensive part, like 40,000 or something. So very, very no budget.
And what does it mean for you now after the festival circuit, screenings, and so on? Is it a motivation to continue to do another film, to do a sequel, to continue shooting another topics from Schwaben? Or do you have any more scripts you would like to shoot on more like budgeted level?
Yeah, as so me and Johannes Müller, who was the producer of the film, and we also went to school together, like everybody on it. We all went to school together, did things, came back to the film. But me and Johannes have the production company, and we just released another 20-minute short movie that was set here in Leipzig. Mm-hmm. But it's also with dialect and also like comedy. We're developing like a script now on a bigger level, because you can't do this again. You can't do this twice. I don't think you can do a feature film without money twice. You do it once, and it's really exhausting, and you need to like give everything you have. And so now I'm working on projects like just television projects and stuff like this that people ask me to write and then direct. But our own project, we are working on it, and we already finished the treatment, which is then more on a more European level. It's not so local, but still local. I really like microcosms, but yeah.
And is it in any way autobiographical or personal again?
Yes, the feature film it's like my next step after the village. I moved to Madrid to study, and this is my set in kind of this setting.
Okay, so good luck with this new project. Thank you for being with us, at least digitally, at Das Filmfest, and thank you again for this Q&A.
Thank you as well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.